Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and you are watching The Nerdy Grail. Now, it's that time again. A new episode of Agatha All Along has just dropped, and this is episode 4 out of 9, and this is called If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You. Now, unfortunately for me, this is probably the weakest episode of the series so far. I don't know, something about this episode tonight just didn't really stick with me. I didn't find it as engaging. I didn't really find the trial as exciting. And it didn't feel like, it felt like an episode where a lot happened, but then nothing happened at the same time, which does happen in a series. You do get filler episodes just to pad out the runtime and just give a little bit of information. But it felt a bit early to do that, especially since it's only the second episode going down the Witch's Road. So it was kind of unfortunate. That's not to say that this was an awful episode. It still was visually beautiful, and I do still enjoy the characters. It's just it felt a bit underwhelming to me overall compared to the previous episodes, especially the last episode. But let's quickly go over what happens in this episode. So at the start, obviously, they all are mourning the loss of Sharon, Mrs. Hart, at the moment, who unfortunately didn't make it past the last trial. And Agatha wants to just move on, get on with it, move on now. So she acts a bit callous, and all the other group are, basically trying to say that, well, they can't move on. They've lost someone. They need a green witch. Agatha tries to state that that's not actually the case. The ballad doesn't really state that. And then Jen and the others argue the opposite. However, they do finally decide that they are going to summon a new Green Witch onto the road. And that Green Witch that they end up summoning is actually Agatha's rival, who we saw earlier in the series, Rio, or Captain Vidal, from her delusional state, who is then summoned onto the road to join the crew as the new Green Witch. And I do love Rio's character. She's really cool. She's got an interesting flair to her. She's very quirky. I like that she hisses at people. She has a creepy stare. And obviously then she lurks in the background, winding Agatha up. Agatha's obviously not happy that Rio has joined, because Agatha's whole point of this journey is to get her powers back to defend herself from Rio. And now to find that Rio is going to be the one helping her to get those powers must be quite annoying for her. They do continue along the road and come across another house in the distance, which Alice immediately is like, I don't want to go in there, right, I'm going to turn around. And so Agatha follows her, wondering what's going on. And Alice refuses, doesn't want to go in that house. And so wants to try and leave the road, but the road keeps twisting back towards the house. And Agatha says, well, we might as well go in now. We've got no choice. The road wants us to go in. So they go up to the house. The previous house was focused on the water phase, and this one seems to be focused on the fire phase. And when they go in, again, a bit like the previous trial where it was all peaceful, it all seems quite quaint, quite peaceful. It's got a bit of like a hippie vibe, a tribal vibe to it. They all seem to be dressed as if like they're ready to play music, like they're part of a band, an old band. They start then exploring the house, and Alice comes across a picture of her mum up on the wall, and she starts talking to Lilia about her past. You just get a bit more of a backstory about what happened to her mum, because earlier they talked about how her mum actually didn't die on the road. She died while on tour, and her coven was her fans. She talks to Lilia about how, Lilia sort of discovers that, she must have died trying to open the road from singing her songs in concert. So you get a little bit more of a backstory into Alice there. Agatha and Rio have a bit of a conversation in a sound booth, and Agatha sort of turns on the speaker and allows everyone else to hear the conversation, basically revealing that there's going to be a bit of betrayal from Rio by the end, and so that then causes a bit of tension amongst the group, but that's then interrupted by this demonic voice and music playing in the background. Teen ends up playing this vinyl record thinking that it must be a clue or a riddle, and it starts playing the vinyl backwards, and you get all this demonic noises coming out of it. And then by the end of it, they discover that actually they've been cursed through playing the song backwards. And then some strange things start happening, such as the crew start like almost feel like they're feeling light. They start steaming. They start burning in agony, and they're having to draw like salt circles and chalk circles around them in order to stop the pain. And they all discover that they've got marks down them as well. And later then, Alice reveals that that's actually a generational thing, and she thought it was like some weird birthmark. So they realize they've got like a generational curse, and the only way to stop this curse is to face it head on and overcome their fears. So, because they did say before that each trial someone's going to have to overcome their fears, and this one's sort of like Alice trying to overcome her fears. And so they realise that in order to break this, they have to actually find what the song's called, the original song, which ended up being the Ballad of the Witch's Road, but they need to play Alice's mother's version of the song in order to break the curse, which I thought was quite interesting. Then they all start singing the song, which is actually quite a nice song. I do like the songs that we're getting in this series so far. I wouldn't mind like a vinyl record, maybe to be able to listen to them. But it just felt like a bit of a cheap way of winning at the end, really. Like, not a lot happened. They entered the house, they played a record backwards, started burning a little bit, sang a song, and then that was it. Because by the end of the song, Alice sees the demonic entity that cursed them, and by the end of the song, she's able to just destroy the spirit by finishing the song, and that's it. The door then opens, and they all are able to just leave, and that's it. It was very quick. I think it was about probably like 24 minutes or 25 minutes into the episode, and already the trial was won, and they were free. So I just thought it felt very rushed. But they do discover that Teen was actually injured. So I thought he might have ended up dying, because obviously Miss Hart died in the last one, and now Teen's injured as well. But what I found most interesting, and it was the part of the episode I really did like, was that Agatha showed real concern for Teen. Like, they laid him on this tree stump back on the road, and all of them were wondering what to do, and Agatha started panicking. She started being like, wait, we need to save him. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Jen, what are we going to do? You're the potions expert. And they do Jen does end up saving Teen's life, and Agatha, you can tell that she is a bit relieved. And then they all gather around a campfire. All the other witches, Lilia, Jen, Alice, Rio, they all gather around while Agatha looks after Teen. And they start all discussing why they're on their journey, why they're on the road. Alice about being on there for her mother and to honour her mother. Jen about trying to be unbound and starts discussing how she got bound in the first place. Agatha starts sitting with Teen, who then wakes up from his injuries. They start talking about who put the sigil on him again. He thinks maybe did Agatha do that. She says that she wouldn't know even if she did, because it hides it from the witch who did it in the first place. And also he then asks, could it be lifted? And she mentions that sigils aren't lifted, they're actually destroyed when the user who has the sigil is no longer needed, almost saying that they need to be gone in order to lift the sigil. And then the Teen starts talking about Agatha's son, which sort of triggers Agatha a little bit, and she storms off. They all come back together, and Rio and Agatha sort of have a little bit of a heart-to-heart moment after talking about previous scars that they've once had. Rio sort of lets slip that it was a person who is her scar, sort of leading to believe that obviously Agatha and Rio had some history. Maybe it was a bit more romantic than was led on. Agatha and Rio have a bit of a moment where they sort of hug and almost kiss, but they don't actually kiss because Rio stops Agatha by stating that Teen isn't your son, do you know that? Or he's not your boy. Basically saying to Agatha that, look, you probably think he's your son, but he's not. And you know deep down he's not. But we don't know yet whether that is her trying to, mislead Agatha or not. He still could be. But then that's where the episode just ends. So yeah, overall, it was an okay episode. But I would say it was it was definitely my least favourite episode of the series. I was a little bit disappointed, I can't lie. I am still interested to see where it goes from here, and I like that Rio has actually joined the crew as well. The demonic entity in this did look really cool as well. He was very, very creepy. I just wish they did a little bit more with him. And the song was nice as well. So 3 positives I could say is the song was really good. I love the character of Rio, and the demonic entity was scary. But negatives to me was definitely it felt a bit rushed. The trial wasn't as intense as the last one. And yeah, that was just it. The pacing was off for me. But overall, I'd probably say this is about a 5 out of 10. Like I said, not my favourite. But overall, I'm still enjoying Agatha All Along, and I am looking forward to seeing what episode 6 brings next week. But for now, that is going to be me, the Nerdy Grail, signing off. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe if you're new, and join me for some more interesting content in the future. Bye for now, everybody!